And we have a fantastic panel here, so I want to give them as much chance as we have to interact and to share their information with you. So I think we're going to sort of get started a couple of minutes early. Person, and now on the boards of both the International Livestock Research Institute and the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture. So I have a very strong interest in the new evolution of the system known as the CGIAR, the Consultative Group on International Ag Research, and the new partnership among the centers that are supported by the CGIAR called the Consortium of International Ag Research Centers. I thought we would have a little bit more carryover from the prior session, but I see, looking at the audience, that in fact we have a lot of new faces. So I am not going to repeat a number of the points that were made in the previous session just to link them with this session, but let me make a couple of points. In the previous session, we were talking about grain legumes, which is one of the areas of focus of the CGIAR consortium, and specifically the focus of a program called the CGIAR Research Program, CRP 3.3. And the speakers from ICRISAT, CIAT, and ICARDA were talking about the potential impact of grain legumes on nutrition and health. One of the programs also mentioned how they are participating in a system-wide effort called Harvest Plus, which has been going for several years, which has been looking at the biofortification of various grain legumes and other commodities. And that biofortification effort and Harvest Plus goal is to increase the nutrient quality, particularly the micronutrient quality of particular crops, including beans, Phaseolus vulgaris. On this panel, we are going to move to another CGIAR research program that is in the process of being formed and developed. A first draft of the design for this activity has been widely circulated, critiqued, and is now at the cusp of moving on to a new, tighter, more focused draft. And it's called CRP4. And those of you who have this flyer, which I believe was available outside, know it's called Agriculture for Improved Nutrition and Health. And the objective of this program, which will be elaborated on further by our panelists, is really to raise the game substantially above the level that was launched with Harvest Plus. It will incorporate Harvest Plus and the Biofortification Initiative, but it will go well beyond. So we're really, really fortunate to have two key members of the architecture team here with us today, Marie Ruel from IFPRI and John McDermott from ILRI. And they will explain, I think in a fairly straightforward and succinct fashion, sort of what this new integrated agriculture for nutrition and health research program is proposed to look like. And then we will have three commentators who've reviewed it, who've talked about it, had critiqued it in some cases, to give some of their comments on it. Hopefully we'll still have enough time to open it to the audience and get your views and get your input. But these guys will all be here for the next couple of days, so there will be more opportunities, and we will have to stop the session at 4 o'clock. So with that, let me just introduce Marie Ruel down at the other end, who will make the sort of first presentation and then turn it over to her colleague, John McDermott.
We are planning to be fast and just give you a very brief overview of the program. I see a lot of people who have actually participated in the design of this program, so I don't need to do so much explanation, I guess. So the point that I want to raise here about the new CGIAR vision is that the CGIAR now has in its vision statement to improve human health and nutrition. The CGIAR always has had the objective of reducing poverty and hunger, but we now are putting specifically an objective of improving human health and nutrition so that we are accountable for it. In that context, this program that I will describe briefly fits strategically very nicely, because its main purpose is to do exactly that, is to bring agriculture, nutrition, and health together, and is recognizing the fact that agriculture has a very important impact on nutrition as well as on health. But also there is a link that also goes through from nutrition and health to agriculture. So if you improve agriculture, so if you have good agriculture, you have improved health and nutrition, but you also have much better agricultural productivity if you have better nutrition and health. So the links are both ways, but this program focuses mostly on focusing on agriculture to improve nutrition and health, recognizing that there are also benefits in turn of improving agriculture, health and nutrition for agriculture. So we focus on maximizing the benefits of agriculture on nutrition. We all know that there are several pathways by which agriculture can impact nutrition. There was a session this morning looking at the disconnect between agriculture and nutrition, but we have also heard about the different pathways by which agriculture can improve nutrition through livelihoods, incomes, employment, food security, both in terms of quantity and quality, and also through gender equity. The program, on the other hand, also focuses on reducing the risks of agriculture. Agriculture has many benefits, both for health and nutrition, but it also increases the risk for certain types of diseases, foodborne diseases, water-related diseases, zoonotic diseases, and problems of occupational health. Just to mention also our target populations here, we have the vulnerable and marginal populations, those that are largely left behind, the poorest of the poor. And we also have the population that is exposed to intensification of agriculture. But these two types of populations are exposed to different types of risks and have different types of needs. I will not dwell on this. This is just to say, why are we doing this? We are doing this because up to now, agriculture hasn't really delivered as much as it could have in terms of improving nutrition and health. We still have close to 1 billion people that are suffering from food insecurity. That is measured in terms of quantity of food, but there's also an even larger number that suffer from poor diet quality. We have severe problems of maternal and child nutrition in certain regions of the world, and this is associated with more than 1/3 of all child deaths, 10% of the burden of diseases. Zoonotic diseases are an increasing threat, and we have also an assessment of agriculture-related health losses of about 25% of all DALYs and 10% deaths. So we do have a huge burden of diseases that is associated with agriculture, and a problem of undernutrition and food insecurity that is not resolved. So how is this program planning to tackle this? Basically, we want to bring together agriculture and nutrition sectors together, and they are at the center of the universe, as you can see here, and to maximize the nutritional benefits and minimize the health risks. So we have 5 components in the program. The first one is what we refer to as nutrition-sensitive value chain. I will explain in a minute what it is. The second one is biofortification, as Emmy was mentioning. This is an important part of the program because it does focus on improving the access to high nutrient-rich foods, staple foods that are rich in micronutrients, to improve nutrition and health. We have a program specifically focusing, a component specifically focusing on agriculture-associated diseases. And then we have a program or a component of the program which brings it all together at the level of the community. This is a program that focuses on integrated programs that focus on nutrition, health, and agriculture at the same time, and that aim at maximizing the synergies between pressing all those different buttons at the same time. And then we have the policy level, where we also bring the 3 sectors together. We really don't have time to explain much what these different components are, but I will explain a couple, and John will follow with the last few. The nutrition-sensitive value chain, it's a relatively new concept, which is why I wanted to explain a little bit what we mean by that. So you have on the right side a typical value chain or supply chain where value is added as you go through, as you take the product through the different levels of the chain. From inputs to food production to all the way to consumption. So the concept is used usually to add economic value so that the actors along the chain also benefit. So we focus usually on adding value for the producers and other actors along the chain. What we're trying to do here is to also add some nutrition objectives. So we want to increase the demand for and the access to nutrient-rich foods for the poor. So we want to include some nutrition concerns and goals into the value chain for products that are naturally rich in micronutrients, for example. So in order to do that, we look at the different components or the different points along the chain. We look at leverage points where we can inject nutrition. And on the left side, you have some of the types of things that we can do to increase the nutrient value or prevent the losses in nutrients that can occur along the chain. So this is the concept, and we really hope that with that, we will not only increase the availability of nutrient-rich foods, but we will also create greater demand and improve the access for the poor. Biofortification, you probably all know very well what this implies. I just wanted to show what is the impact pathway here. So for biofortification, we're talking about breeding crops that are rich in micronutrients. And so the impact pathway is here from discovery to development to delivery. So from discovery, you identify the specific crops that you want to work on, or you identify the crops that are rich in micronutrients, and then you adapt them, you test them. This is the development phase. You test them in humans, and then you ensure the delivery and the scaling up of the crops, and then with an achievement of improved nutritional status. I'll leave it at this for John to continue with the other.
Yes, thank you, Marie, and good afternoon, everyone. The third component is around the control of agriculturally associated diseases. And what we're talking about there is really looking at food safety, water-associated diseases, zoonotic diseases, and to a limited extent, occupational health. Now, the kind of philosophy behind this is to take a more systemic view of this risk across agroecosystems and across value chains. And it's really kind of a risk-based approach rather than the classic kind of hazard identification approach for diseases. So it's really trying to mitigate risks, because we're talking about a lot of poor communities who are not always, I mean, it's a trade-off between, are they able to sell their products at all? What are they eating? And how do we reduce the risks and make progress moving forward? And obviously there's going to be key elements of knowledge, attitudes, and practices, and changing behaviors and things like that. Now, as Marie mentioned, one of the interesting things is, how do we get these things working in districts and communities on the ground? And that's usually not a job of researchers. That's a job of development partners, whether it's government, whether it's non-governmental organizations or civil society. But research can play a supporting role in this. So what kind of a role are we wishing to play in support of development? Well, we think that research can play an important role in the kind of program design and specific inputs that can assist in implementation. And we see those coming in different ways. Some is around methods and tools for kind of evaluation and assessing what's working and what's not. Some is around kind of looking at better program models. A lot of these things require kind of integrated approaches where you would, say, improve water and sanitation in different ways with probably some specific kind of engineering things, agronomic practices, etc. And the other, and I guess we've heard in various sessions already today and we'll hear about throughout the week, is that there's often weak evidence in terms of what decisions to be made. And when we make the initial wrong decisions, how do we correct them and improve them as we go forward? We feel that then working closely with these development partners, there'll be a lot of co-learning and there'll be a lot of then improvement in terms of how these programs happen. And there also needs to be obviously a lot of learning of how these go to scale. And obviously some things will be local solutions and other things will be scalable solutions. And obviously at the end of the day, we want agriculture to play a much bigger role in improving nutrition and health. Now, another part of this is how can research support the kind of enablers of improved nutrition and health through agriculture? And part of that is to bring together knowledge, approaches, looking at the evidence and how it gets compiled. And a significant amount of this is that often how agriculture interacts with nutrition and health falls between the cracks now because of this cross-sectoral problem that we don't really pull things together. And so there's a lot to be learned about how to bring information and knowledge together between the different sectors. And this relates often to the multiple burdens in terms of nutrition and health and how we calculate those, but also the potential multiple benefits of making an agricultural intervention or some other kind of intervention to guide us on what's the best way forward. Now, obviously, in this rich area of agriculture, nutrition, and health, gender is going to be an absolute focal point for making this happen. And the ways in which women are incorporated, in which programs are targeted, are going to make a big difference to the benefits that are received. In terms of capacity strengthening, there's capacity that needs to be strengthened all the way through. This is not an area where there's a lot of expertise now, especially in the cross-sectoral areas, and we're going to have to learn as we go forward. Clearly, in such an area, there's got to be a lot of changes in terms of behavior, in terms of perceptions, etc. And so communication and advocacy are going to be critical. Now, this is where agriculture is just one piece of the puzzle, and we have to have strong partnerships with health on the one hand and with nutrition on the other hand. And these are communities that traditionally don't work together that well. But we also, as you've seen before, we need the connections between development and research and between communities and national governments, etc. So there's a critical role, and in the proposal we've laid out a lot of the logic of doing that, focusing on what do development implementers need to do to help improve their performance for better health and nutrition outcomes, and what do the enablers of overall development efforts need to do to make better policies, make better investments, to provide a supportive environment for people to do this better. Okay. So what value will this CRP add? And this is our proposition, and then you're going to hear from some of our colleagues who are not in the CGIAR of what value they think it might add. First of all, I think this taking a systemic view of agriculture, health, and nutrition and how they interact is critical, both from local all the way up to global and back. We're hoping to address gaps in our knowledge of some of these relationships. Now, I think when you critically evaluate this, you'll see that it's absolutely full of holes and there'll be tons of gaps. But this will be an important one, and at least start with the highest priority gaps. I think this is one where key evidence is needed to make decisions, and this is going to be critical, both for making initial decisions and prioritization, but also adjusting and adapting as we go along, because there's many complex problems here that we're dealing with. And another thing is to really foster the effective approaches and partnerships that's needed to do this cross-sectoral work. The proposal, as it's been submitted, is available on this website, and any other documentation associated with the development of this proposal is there. We just received comments which will be going on the website, and you'll see how we're responding to those. So this is the kind of place, if you want to make comments to us, if you want to see what we're doing, it's all right here. Thank you very much.